as you have $4 million in your bank, it's a lot of responsibility.
Percent of our money was in SVB Bank, and then when it collapsed, we were terrified. 5-6 of us didn't take salaries.
Today, dosto, in Bangalore, we are inside Bluelearn's office, a startup created by college students who got $4 million of funding right after their college, and their product is basically LinkedIn to find communities and internships for students all over India. आप किसी भी tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 college में आप connect कर सकते हो, and काफी students ने. It was at one point the biggest internship finding platform for students, and that was very fascinating. And why they have exited and returned the money to VCs. काफी लोग सोचते हैं कि startups is about resilience and never giving up, and why they gave up and exited. So let's get to learn in the office today. So hi Harish, thank you so much for having me.
Anytime.
Yeah, and hi Shreyansh, how are you?
I'm good, bro.
Nice to meet you for the first time. So let's start with the idea and the journey to getting pre-seed, seed, series A funding. So what kind of hunger you showed to the investors? Show with the same energy to our audience.
Yeah, so when we started off, it was just a Telegram group. Like we were just a Telegram group with a bunch of college students. And what we realized was during COVID, a lot of college students could not network with people, right? They were just sitting alone at home. And most colleges in India suck. Like it's not good, right? People just go there, don't really attend classes. Placements are bad. So we thought, what if we could build an alternative to college, an online community where some of the smartest and brightest people could come together and sort of build something. They could sort of learn new skills and get new opportunities. So we were building like an online version of BITS Pilani or IIT, a college like that. So that was a mission with Bluelearn.
Is that how Facebook started from Harvard?
Probably, yeah. We couldn't become as big as Facebook, but yeah, we did start off in college.
So what Bluelearn audience was supposed to have in common? What was the main goal students should have when they were coming to Bluelearn? What was the unique point?
We wanted to make it a place where everyone who was ambitious could come, right? Because what we realized was in India, most people give JEE, and some of them land up in IIT, some of them land up at BITS, but other colleges were just not as good, right? But that doesn't mean students are not talented or they're not smart enough. So there was no place where these smart people could come, meet, network, and like sort of work on their skills and get a good job, right? So we wanted to become that place for all these ambitious people who were studying in bad colleges, but still were smart enough. So that's how Bluelearn as a community started off.
Oh, so they can connect with anyone they want to, all over so IIT, BITS, anyone.
Correct,
so a tier 3 student can connect with top university students.
For sure.
And get their...
Like a person studying at a tier 3 college could connect with like founders of great startups in Bangalore, right?
Yeah.
So someone in Patna and Bihar could probably connect with like, say, some founder in Bangalore and learn designing. So that was sort of the goal.
Absolutely, I'll be intrigued immediately. So after this point, what was the first level of funding you guys got?
Shreyansh, you want to talk about the funding bit?
Sure. So I think once investors saw the traction, they were able to see thousands of community members joining, zero customer acquisition cost. They said, this could become a large business someday. And so they were pretty interested, and we raised our first round of funding. And I think most important part with investors is that their mission should align with your vision of the company, right? Like, why are you guys building? What is the end goal? And so thankfully we found great investors who aligned with our thought processes, and yeah, we raised.
So can you walk us through step by step?
Yeah.
Pre-seed, seed,
Yeah.
Series A, Series B, Series C?
No, we didn't. Yeah, no. Yeah, we didn't. But so our first investors were 100x VC. They put a 25 lakh check in us back when we were third year college students.
So pre-seed.
Pre-seed, yeah.
Okay.
And then Lightspeed came in for the second round, which is our seed, and they put in close to $500,000. And this time we got a bunch of angel investors, some of our close friends and seniors who helped us out. And this was when we're still trying to figure out what to do. And then, as Harish said, once the vision cemented that we wanted to build an online university, that's when Elevation Capital came in and we raised our larger 3.5 mil round.
Can you walk us through the process when you guys founded together? Because most of the companies, they fall apart when their founders, they fight.
So yeah, you're correct. A lot of startups fail because startup founders just end up having a fight or something like that. Shreyansh and I have known each other for 6 years now. We went to college together, so we have eaten, traveled together. So those experiences are really important. That's why it's highly recommended to start up with a friend, because you've seen them during the highs and lows. In terms of equity split, it's always better to do a 50-50% equity split, because you don't want conflicts in the future where one person has a high equity, right? Because then if someone has a high equity, you'll be like, oh, that person has to do more work. But then at the end of the day, both of you have to do more or less the same amount of work. And in terms of like how you make sure each other is accountable, you just have to have honest conversations, right? Like if you have some feedback, just be honest, tell it straight to their face. We've had very hard conversations when we were running the company. And it's more about understanding and just, it's a journey. It's like dating. It's like marriage, It's like a long process.
So when you got the funding is received solely on the basis of your communication, your hunger to fight through the challenges, but it doesn't work on implementation. Did you ever think at one point of time, even after the funding, that it's not going to work out?
So when we received the funding, we were pretty young, so we were definitely very excited, and we were at the top of our worlds. But then eventually you realize that as you have $4 million in your bank, it's a lot of responsibility, and it's someone else's money, and you need to deal with it carefully. Fortunately for us, we were very careful with money. Kudos to Shreyansh. He was very frugal. Every single coffee transaction, he'll be like, why do you spend, So it all went through well. So financially, you got to make sure that you got to realize that that's not your personal money. It's someone else's hard-earned money, right? And you have to deal with it that way. So that's what I would say about funding.
Yeah, no, similar. I would say, of course, funding is a great milestone, but it's just a milestone. Like it's like filling up gas in your car, right? You still have to drive the car. You still have to take it to the destination. Or petrol is just gonna help you get there. I think funding is like that, so that we don't die on the side of the road sometime. So we had enough money to hire the best people and build the best technologies, but the market wasn't the best, and so not everything works out.
Yeah. And how many times when things were breaking, of course, in software, things break, you guys felt that it's not going to work? How many times that happened?
So I'll tell you a couple of things. There's this Murphy's Law, right? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And I strongly believe in that. I mean, we used to run large scale events where like 500,000 people used to show up to some of our learning events, how to get an internship online. And so at one point, a lot of our investors were also coming onto these events to, just due diligence, say, hey, what are these events that these guys are running? And I remember that one time that two of our investors were on the call, the speaker's lights went out, Wi-Fi went out, everything went wrong, and it was just a really bad experience. But, that's one-off cases, and, things happen every single day.
Talk about SVB.
SVB crisis, yeah.
You guys had money in
big
SVB.
exposure.
All our money in Silicon Valley.
90+%.
Oh my God.
90+% of our money was in SVB Bank, and then when it collapsed, we were terrified, right? Like overnight, we couldn't run payroll.
Yeah, we thought we lost our jobs,
Yeah.
We had 1 month of payroll left, so we could only pay 1 month of salary, and then
The rest of the money
everything was with Silicon Valley Bank.
in US, yeah. And so actually, for that month, I think for the month of March, for the month of April, 5-6 of us didn't take salaries. In fact, in the top 5-6 people, Harish and I didn't take our salaries for a couple of months, and then a few others. But we made sure that we had lines of credit from our bank accounts and other proactive measures to mitigate that risk. But thankfully, everything worked out well. We got the money back.
Okay, what are the misconceptions people have when you become a founder? Because these days, 20, 21-year, 22-year-old, they just want to build a startup because it's like a drug. It's a show off. It's like the status on LinkedIn.
Startup founders are always figuring it out. It's never perfect, right? When outside people look at us, they'll be like, oh, these guys have figured everything out. But right from small founders like us to probably like Steve Jobs to Sundar Pichai, like CEO of Google, everyone is still figuring it out every day. It's a hard thing to do every single day. You can't just live a peaceful life. You can't be like, oh, I'm done, right? Like tomorrow someone better could just come and take over, right? So it's like constant struggle every single day. I think that's something people have to realize, I guess.
Yeah, now I'd say paperwork, as we discussed earlier. From the outside, it looks all like, you can just go in. But there's a lot of complexities in the back end of building of registering a business or hiring some people or, paying out salaries or even receiving funding, right? There's a lengthy 300-page shareholders agreement. Someone has to read it and go through it. And so there's just a lot of things that are not publicized on social media that I feel founders or founding team members have to go through.
Do you guys feel a lot of pressure coming from the VCs all the time?
No, thankfully, a huge shout out to our investors. They were very, very good investors. They understood the nuances of building a startup and realized that it's not an overnight journey. It's not an overnight success. It takes multiple years, 5, 10 years things to start working out. And so they were always very, very patient with us. They helped us. It was more of like a mentor than a partner that we had with our investors, which we needed since we were like 21 when we raised funding, right? So yeah, a huge shout out. We didn't feel that pressure. In fact, when we did return the capital back and decided to shut down, it was out of our own sort of decision to do.
I think for me, the biggest setback would be us shutting down the company. Because every day I used to come to work with these people, right? And I think in some form, they just became a support group. Like, it was just super fun to come to work, just chat around. People used to skateboard and play with Nerf guns.
FIFA.
It was just, people used to play FIFA. The energy was insane. And it was like going back to college. And I think I miss that energy right now. And every day I miss seeing people around, having fun, working together on a common mission. I think that's what I'll miss the most.
No, yeah, 100%. The team is what I'd miss the most, the culture, the people. At the end of the day, it's people that really make any dream come alive.
And since you have exited, it was an emotional moment. The main reason you mentioned you exited because like investors care about revenue more than profits. You can become profitable faster, but keeping stagnant and exponential revenue is the most difficult. And that's why VCs are not happy, and that's why you have to withdraw or you chose to withdraw.
So I'll just, correct that a little bit. VCs just want you to build a large company, right? It could be profitable, it could be high revenue generating. I think that's secondary, but the outcome should be large. Like, you should probably become super large or get acquired or go to an IPO, right? If you just look at large VC outcomes, it's companies like Ola, Uber, Swiggy, Zomato, right? Like, that's the level, that's the aspiration most venture capitalists aim for. We thought we couldn't reach there, like from our revenue charts.
In the market that we were operating in.
Yeah, in education, we thought we couldn't really reach there, and therefore we decided to return capital.
But companies try to expand in other ways, right? You, for example, you being a startup can acquire a smaller startup. I mean, of course, you're not at that level, but maybe that's people keep.
So we tried pivoting. We tried pivoting a couple of times. We launched a couple of new brands, bowl.com and a couple of other things. But like in general, if the entire market and the adjacent markets are also not the best, so then how much we didn't feel like we were up to do a hard pivot where we would completely shift out of education technology and go into like B2B SaaS or like deep tech. We didn't want to do that because we knew about education, we knew about the hiring markets, and that's what even our investors invested in us for. We didn't want to sort of just say just because we have money, we will suddenly now start doing B2B SaaS, right? So opportunity cost, and we thought it'd be better to not burn further capital or waste our team's time working on a mission that we knew didn't have a large outcome.
And you guys returned 70% of investor funds, which is a big thing. People burn it and then be like, oh, it didn't work out. That's very impressive. How do you decide how long to pivot? You guys spent 4 years in it, right? But it's really hard to decide how much time is enough, how much time is not enough. You guys had enough capital to keep experimenting, keep trying harder, keep pivoting. And if you think about Jensen Huang's startup, NVIDIA, it's unbelievable. It took 3 decades to reach where it is right now. A decade ago, people didn't even used to talk about other than gamers. So how did you decide that it's too much pivoting?
So as he said, right, we did try a bunch of experiments. I think 4 or 5 experiments of pivoting in education, but nothing really panned out that well. So for us, it was more about opportunity cost. We were like, what if we could be doing something better in a different sector? Or what if we could be doing something else with our time? I think it really boiled down to that. So it's usually just better to cut your losses when you know that, hey, this is the limit to pivoting probably.
Also a little bit of motivation, I guess, right?
Yeah. If you've tried 4 or 5 times in a very short span of time, you've given your all in and things are not working out, I think Sam Altman said this, right? He said he feels excited when things work. Like, he's been working on a bunch of things all his life, but nothing seemed that it was working. And he feels that he doesn't burn out. He said burnout happens when you work on things that don't work. Do you get it? Like, so he said now that he's working on OpenAI, he never feels burnt out because it's just working out really well. So
I mean, I would disagree. I feel like, that startups work like Doctor Strange in the movie Endgame. Like, you try millions of things and somehow one dot just hit the mark and all the patterns connect.
Yeah, sure.
I think, like Sam Altman's experience could be different. NVIDIA CEO might say that, just be resilient, never give up. So everyone can say different things, and it just shows one of those patterns in they work out. Now, what does exit strategy mean? Does that mean you guys have sold Bluelearn to someone, or Bluelearn doesn't exist?
No, nothing as of now. We're just, whatever capital we had, roughly 70% of whatever we raised, we're trying to figure out the best way to distribute it back to the investors. Everyone gets flat 70% back regardless of when they invested or how much.
Yeah. The good news is that the team has gotten jobs, so everyone's gotten jobs at really good startups. Some of them have started their own startups, so that's kind of nice to see.
Yeah.
But what happens to Bluelearn? What does exit strategy mean?
Bluelearn would just shut down completely.
Just fade, I guess. There's not much we know. We're still accepting a few internships. So Bluelearn was one of the largest internship platforms in India when we were back in 2023 when we launched it. We had 5,000 companies hiring from us. We processed over 350,000 applications from all 28 states in India within the first year of operations. And so we're still open to that. Bluelearn servers are still active for another couple of months at least, and people can still go and see internships, right? If that starts dying down, then we'll probably just turn it off.
And last question, do you think if the startup wouldn't have been in Bangalore and would have been somewhere else, you would have appreciated as much? Because tell us, what does Silicon Valley of India, Bangalore, adds in your life, in your startup?
That's actually a good question, because we worked out of Goa in the initial days, and then we moved to Bangalore. And to be very, very honest, Bangalore gives you the people aspect, you can meet smarter people. But then at the same time, I won't say that you can't build a startup out of Goa. As long as your idea is great and people are loving your product, you can build it out of anywhere. Maybe you can visit Bangalore once in a month or something like that to just network and meet interesting people. What it does add is the motivation bit. In Goa, we were probably one of the largest startups in Goa, right? So it makes you feel that you've already made it. In Bangalore, you're one of the smallest startups out there, right? You can always look up to people much bigger than you. So there's much more energy in terms of building in Bangalore, and I think that's really motivating. But in terms of will you make it or not, you can build a startup.
But I feel just the hiring part is a lot easier in Bangalore.
That's there, yeah.
And just hiring, because Bangalore inherently has so many tech people or product people or design people, you can just it's a dime a dozen, to be honest, over here. But in Goa, it was a challenge to hire. There's not that many technical people or developers or sort. So people, but it all boils down to the people aspect, which is great.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hiring in Bangalore is super easy compared to Goa.
Right.
And what are the things you would not wish? What are the pressures you felt? What are the worst moments?
Paperwork, man.
So no pressure, no pressure, no deadlines. You don't.
No, we had, of course.
Of course. Walk us through all of that.
So monthly investor updates, monthly, just making sure that we're moving forward. And then every day is a new challenge. For example, SVB crisis came, right? And that took 6 weeks to even just figure out how do we get out of it. And that 6 weeks took time away from us that we could have been building, right? And so I think there is, of course, pressure, but being founders, it's not like every day we don't have a boss in the company, right? So it's a lot of self-accountability, which I would say is harder. I would argue self-accountability is harder than, having someone who would say, do this, do that. And so the first couple of months, I feel like we had to upskill ourselves and learn self-accountability more than anything.
That's true, because Bluelearn is the first job both of us have ever done officially. I've never worked a job before, right? So you never had a boss to tell you what to do. And a lot of times you just have to figure it out. If 3 years back we were just pitching, I think some of our when we first received our investment of 25 lakhs, we didn't even have a company. It was just, we were do we take it into our personal bank accounts? We're just confused, right? We had to actually incorporate a company after people were even ready to invest money. So a lot of things that you have to just learn on your own by just Googling and asking a lot of people in your college and stuff.
There was no ChatGPT back in 2020.
There was no ChatGPT. Yeah.
It was all just Googling.
And how do you measure growth that keeps you going? Is it the number of users? Is it the revenue? Is it the profit? Is it the happiness of the employees, or is it the happiness of the customers? Tell us all what you measure.
Well, so I think initially when we started, it was traction, user growth, user engagement, user retention. And then over time, of course, funding winters hit, recessions and all those things. And so then growth at all costs changed to profitability at all costs. How do you become just profitable as a business? And so we face the same issues, we face the same journey. We started off in 2020, 2021, growth, user acquisition, and then 2023, 2024 was revenue, profitability. Of course, employee happiness was also top. But I feel like we never really faced that issue. We never had too high attrition. Our culture was always pretty great, like Harish mentioned.
Who was the first person you hired, and who took the decision? How did you take the decision?
The first person we hired was, I think, Keenan Vineet?
Vineet.
Yeah, Vineet was the first one on our payroll officially, yeah.
Yeah.
Payroll.
So Vineet was Vineet. We had worked with Vineet before.
No, he's a designer, not HR.
He was a designer, and he was thinking of going for masters in the US. And somehow Shreyansh and I got on a call with him. We had just 25 lakhs with us, I think, and we somehow convinced him to quit his masters in the US and like come work with us.
Online, that to fully remote. He hasn't
this was
even met
during
us. We've
COVID.
never met each other.
Yeah.
It
So
was.
two strangers on the internet just convinced him to drop his US plans and come work with us.
Oh my God.
And the second person we hired was Keenan. So Keenan was already working at a different company, and we asked him to quit that job and like come work with us.
What position?
He was our tech head, so he was the CTO technically.
Awesome. And last, since like, cultural wise, Bangalore is so westernized, it's like very much in sync with Silicon Valley of America as well in many ways. My last question will be a bit weird. Like Silicon Valley is talking that America is becoming too woke. What do you guys talk about? Do you also talk about that, things are becoming too woke, or no?
In India, I don't think so.
India people are still pretty conservative, so I think there's a long way before we call ourselves woke.
Yeah, in US, I don't know. I mean, I haven't gone there in a long time. We'd have to go there to comment
but I
on
think
that.
here it's fine. People are not that woke.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I hope
Thank
it
you so
adds
much.
value to young entrepreneurs who want to build it out, and with clear-cut communication. Means a lot. I'm wishing you all the best.